everybody, welcome to your horoscopes for this week. These are the horoscopes for the week ending September 19th, 2015. It is Mercury retrograde week. So, of course, we've already been in the shadow of the retrograde. It's official on the 17th, all the way through until October 10th. So we get a little bit of issues there, of course, as the Mercury retrograde has a tendency to do, and we're going to find out who's affected the most by it, of course. So we're going to get right to our horoscopes. And as usual, we're going to get started with Aries. Aries is definitely going to be affected by the Mercury retrograde in this next few weeks, especially as Mercury has moved into T-square position with Uranus and Pluto. And as Mercury goes retrograde this week, that's 3 retrograde planets all in the same aspect. So it is going to be a little bit of an issue for you Rams. It's definitely this aspect is going to make you feel like some old BS is coming back up when it comes to your goals, your dreams, and in some cases, your career and being able to get things done. You're also going to find yourself in a position, again, as we normally do, where people who normally say that they're going to be there to help you are kind of dropping the ball on that. And so that's going to definitely cause some frustration indeed. Now, Uranus is trine with your ruling planet of Mars and Venus is definitely helpful, providing you use the energy of your ruling planet to its best advantage. So when these little boombas come into your life to kind of sort of mess things up a little bit, you want to avoid that frustration and you want to avoid that emotional overreaction, because that's really going to get in the way of you being able to focus on what it is that you need to do. But on a positive note, we're talking trine here between Uranus and Venus and Mars. So this is actually a really good aspect. It's going to project you forward into the goals that you love. It's going to make sure that your energy is on the right track and focused on where it needs to go. As long as you're focused on that, none of the other stuff is really going to bring you down. So, of course, be aware of miscommunications, as Mercury retrograde has a tendency to do, both when he's in retrograde and during the shadow period. And just all around, keep your eyes on the prize this week. You want to be paying attention to what's going on around you so that you don't fall in a hole that you're going to have to get yourself out of. So bottom line is, you Rams, it's time to show everybody what you're really made of, and don't let all that other stuff get in the way of you being able to focus on what's really important. So you guys have a great week with that. Taurus, it's all about your schedule this week, and with so many different things that you have to do and want to do, it can get a little bit overwhelming when all of that stuff is kind of hanging over your head. So this week, it's all about organization. Get your schedules together, get your plans together, and make sure that you have ample time in that schedule to focus on one thing at a time. I don't know if this is a fixed sign thing or if it's just a general human thing, but I know that when I get overwhelmed with too many different things hanging over my head, it makes me want to stop and not do any of it. And of course, what happens with that? We don't get anything done, right? You want to make sure that you could be successful, and you want to make sure that all of these things that you both need to do and want to do are goals that you can meet. And you can definitely do that by scheduling some time for each individual thing. You don't want the things that you have to do to become the excuses to why you can't do the things that you want to do. And when you're putting the schedule together, you also have the ability to schedule some time for you in there too. So you're not overwhelmed by just having to work, or focus. You need that unplugged time too. So this week, it's all about taking all of those things out from floating over your head and being such a really, really, really heavy burden, laying them all out, scheduling some time for every single thing, and making sure that you get things done, because that's what's going to make you successful. So you guys have a great week with that. Gemini, it's all about relationships this week for you guys, and of course building those quality foundations for relationships, especially those that are really close to you, is really important to the success of those relationships. But even more important to the success of those relationships is the relationship between the most important person in your life, and that is you. everybody should have a healthy relationship with themselves. And I know that that might sound a little bit weird, but trust me on this one, okay? You have, most people have a very unhealthy relationship with themselves and allow their insecurities and their deepest feelings to kind of sort of rule what goes on in their external life, and more importantly, how they react to what's going on around them, or how they react to emotions around them from other people. What this does in the best of relationships is it constantly gets in the way, as people are people. And we always react in an emotional way to things that, of course, we feel on an emotional level. When you have a beautiful relationship with yourself and you're able to sit down and identify where the roots of some of these insecurities come from, you're less likely to react emotionally by somebody's internal outburst. And it actually puts you in a place of being able to understand and help that person rather than taking offense to somebody's bad day that they just happen to be kind of sort of throwing at you at the time, because we're human and we all do that regardless of the relationships that we have with ourselves. So this week, it's really important to take a look at that number one relationship, that relationship you have with yourself. It's time to learn to love yourself, not in an egotistical, I'm covering up my insecurities kind of way, but in a I accept and love myself, the good, bad, and the ugly, because we all have a little bit of that, and I'm willing to take a look at where some of these insecurity roots are and let them go. This is going to make all of your external relationships even better than they already are. So you guys have a great week with that. Cancer. It's all about money, money, money this week for you guys. And when you're talking about making money, you've tried everything, right? I know you're going to say it. You've tried everything. I can't tell you how many clients I have talked to says, I've tried everything. You're not making it yet. You haven't tried everything. And that's really the bottom line there. When it comes to money and making some money, you have tried so many different things, but there is something there in the back of your mind that says, pick me, this is going to work. And internally, whenever that idea comes up, you go, I don't know if I can do that. Or, maybe it's your belief that it's not going to make you money, or maybe it's a belief that you're not good enough to do it. Whatever that belief is, it's time to take that idea out of the back of your mind and start looking at it for what it is. It is an idea to generate some extra income. What you're doing by saying you can't do it, or it's not going to, or what have you, is you're allowing those insecurities and those little personal negative thoughts to get in the way of being successful in this venture. And if you don't try, you really will never know how successful it can be. So this week, it's all about taking a look at that idea that's been in the back of your head or the back burner all this time, bringing it forward and having the guts to say, you know what? I'm just going to try it out and see what happens. You never know what's going to happen when you do that. And if it doesn't pan out, there's another one back there. There's always an idea in there for you to make money, and there's always opportunities. You just got to tweak that mindset to believe that you do deserve to have this, and you do deserve to have this, by the way. That's HMP telling you that you do deserve it. So you guys, get out there and go make that money, and have a great week with that. Leo, as Mars moves into square position with Saturn this week, you're going to have that old fear. It's going to feel like the old fear is coming back as situations start to come up that make you feel like everything that you've been working toward is going to fall apart like it always does. But at the same time, Venus's aspects with Mercury are fantastic this week, making this retrograde Mercury feeling kind of sort of work in your favor rather than being a wretched pain in the rear for you, which is fantastic. When it comes to communications and miscommunications, the biggest thing for this week is to make sure that you get the information from the source. Don't look at or listen to what other people, secondhand information coming from other people. Well, I heard that this, you're going to be let down. And if you allow that feeling come over you when you're hearing something that somebody else heard, what you're doing is you're shooting yourself in the foot immediately, because that person may have misread that communication and really isn't telling you the absolute truth. Not because they're jerks or anything like that, but because this is just what happens. Kind of sort of like that old parlor game of telephone. Somebody whispers something in somebody's ear, and then they have to whisper it to the next person what they thought they heard. By the time you get to the end of the 10-person group, it's a completely different message. This is life, and this is how humans communicate. So go to the source on this one. Don't panic just because you heard something that happened. Make sure that you know exactly what it is that's going on. And as Mars and Venus are both in trine position with Uranus, everything is falling into place. And the foundation of this idea totally falling into place and coming together. So you look at the things that are taking place and building when you're not even paying attention. And sometimes life will give you this something else to look at just so these things can fall into place without you feeling that you need to control where they fall into place. So what it comes down to for you guys, Leos, is make sure you got your correct information, make sure you're aware of miscommunications, make sure you're aware of what people are saying around you, and make sure, of course, you know the source is correct. Because by doing this, you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble and a lot of feeling like you're failing again. You're not going to fail again. Remember, you're going to get what you want. So you guys have a great week with that. Virgo, let's take a minute to say happy birthday to some of our, not mine, but our favorite Virgos this week because we have so many of them. And we're going to start off with the most important one, of course, to myself and drummer Dave behind the camera, and that's our Grandma Joyce, who's turning probably, we're not going to say, but she's old enough to be able to kiss any firefighter she wants to and get away with it because she says so. She's definitely one of the most awesome people in our lives, and we hope that she has a beautiful birthday this week. We also want to say happy birthday to a good friend of ours, Aaron Benson, the man who saved my life. And I say this because once upon a time I was really, really sick, and he made me face it, and he made me take a look at it and make some changes that were definitely helpful to me sitting here in front of you guys doing this right now. So I hope he has a fantastic birthday. And of course, last but not least, we have the big birthday of the week. It's AOD's Riley Menning, the man who brings the beautiful voice to Ashes of Death. Go to facebook.com/Ashes of Death and go and say happy birthday to Riley because his birthday's on Tuesday. He's already been celebrating it this week, but that just means that we can continue on that celebration throughout the week. So happy birthday to you, Riley. I hope that you have had and continue to have fantastic days and this week for your birthday. But for everybody else who's having a birthday this week, I hope you have a wonderful birthday this week. And as the sun is preparing to spend his last full week in Virgo, he's definitely helping out this opposition between Jupiter and Neptune in your sign this week. And his aspects with Saturn remind you in a positive way your responsibilities to yourself and your own career dreams. When you look back on your life and you look back on past failures, quote unquote failures, all of these things are simply lessons or things to remind you that those things that you did before obviously didn't work out. And you also want to not just look at the circumstance, but look at your mindset at the same time with what was going on. Because Jupiter's opposition with Neptune this week is all about these mindsets, all about how these memories made you feel and how your mind grabs onto them and says, yes, I don't want to feel like that again. So therefore, it puts you in this really difficult position of feeling like you're failing over and over and over again. This week it's time to put a stop to that. Just put a stop to that. You don't want to think like that anymore, and you don't want to feel like that anymore. Time for you guys to keep your eyes on the prize. And remember, what an awesome Virgo you really are, people. Come on, you're Virgos, for crying out loud. You shouldn't be having all this nastiness going on in your head. The typical Virgo should feel like they can walk out the door and take on the world. So this week, it's time for you to ask yourself this question. Are you going to walk out that door and take on the world? Or are you going to walk out that door with your head hanging, making it seem like you're not going to get what you want? I know if I was you, which one I would choose. So Have a great week with that, and make sure that you choose wisely, because it's time to grab whatever you want. Have a great week with that. Libra, are you Libras ready for a full Libra Mercury retrograde? It doesn't really matter if you're ready or not, because it's happening this week on the 17th, and it will be a full Libra retrograde all the way until October 10th, when it goes direct again and then moves on out of Libra shortly after that. But this week, especially as Mercury is in this T-square position with Uranus and Pluto, by the end of the week, all three of these planets are going to be in retrograde motion. Now, for cardinal signs, this is a problem, because it feels like when you want to move forward, you can't. It's like there's a big wall in front of you and you can't get anywhere. And even though that this isn't the heaviest Mercury retrograde we're going to have this year, I think the other two were definitely a lot more difficult. This particular retrograde is really bringing to light some old issues that are about to resurface that you were hoping were gone with the wind and not coming back. We're talking miscommunications when it comes to all different types of relationships, and some old stuff that really you could have lived without ever having to deal with again. Now, the good news is that Mercury's aspects with Venus really are fantastic, showing you exactly what it is about your goals that you really, really love and what's really, really important about them. And she brings with this aspect a very important question in regards to this retrograde mess that's going on with you. Are your goals important, or the need to fight important? Do you need to be right, or do you need to achieve what you set out to achieve? Once you can answer this question, you can determine whether or not you really want to achieve what it is that you're looking for, or you really want to achieve these goals, or you just want to be right. And just wanting to be right kind of leads to a chaotic mess. It's not about being right. It's not about you having the last word. It's about making sure that you get where you need to go. So get through those miscommunications. Don't let those miscommunications get to you. It happens all the time, and especially around a Mercury retrograde time, you're looking to see a lot of miscommunication. But as long as you get where you need to go, this is what's important. So don't kill yourself trying to fix the situation. Let it go and focus on what's important. I know you guys can do it. So you guys have a great week with that. Scorpio, are you guys ready for the good news? It's official this week. Say bye-bye to Saturn, because he's leaving and moving on to Sagittarius this week. And I'm sure most of you Scorpios are going to be thrilled with this, because his responsibility lessons have been heavy for the last couple of months for you guys, for sure. But it's not over yet, and you're not completely out of the clear yet, because as Saturn does sit on that cusp with Sagittarius, you are still going to feel the effects of his being there, especially when he moves into T-squared position with Neptune and Jupiter this week. Now, this is a very heavy aspect for sure when it comes to feeling as if you can't really meet your goals, and especially your career goals, and you feel like it is your responsibility to do this, but something in the back of your mind keeps saying that it's not going to happen. And your external life is going to project that back at you. Every single time when you go through these negative mindsets, your external life always projects it back at you. It's the universe's way of trying to teach you to step out of that. So really what it comes down to is you got to mind your thoughts and what's going on in here this week. If you're thinking and feeling that, you're just not good enough, or it's not going to work out for you, hey, you know what? It's not going to work out for you. And when it comes right down to it, you deserve to shine, and it is your time to shine. Really, 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 I mean this. It's your time to shine. So this week, it's all about taking a look at that internal process. What thoughts are you allowing to hold you back from catapulting yourself forward? And how much are you allowing other people's words to become your own personal internal communication and hold you back? It's time to put a stop to this. You are done with it, and you're ready to move forward. It is your time to shine. So it's time to get down to business and make that happen. You guys have a great week with that. Sagittarius, Saturn is officially moving back into your sign this week and moving into T-squared position with Jupiter and Neptune. is going to bring back those old feelings of fear when it comes to projecting yourself forward in some new goals, whether they're personal goals or career goals. It really can go either way for you guys this week. But Saturn's position with the sun this week proves to you that you have gone through this process before and have definitely had the ability to rise above the fears and shine when it comes to being successful, especially around your career goals. So this week really is all about looking at that internal process, that internal mindset, those thoughts that come up every now and then that scare you, that say, you're not going to be able to do this, or it's too scary for you to do this, or it's too big for you to do this. And you know what? There is nothing too big for Sagittarian to handle, okay? You guys definitely can handle a lot of things, and it's not even just about handling it. It's about taking this thing, whether it be big or small, and making it into the most amazing thing anybody has ever seen. That is the Sagittarian gift to the world. So this week, when things start to get a little bit heavy, it really is all about letting yourself know. Have a little talk with yourself. Look in the mirror this week. And when those internal thoughts are coming up and saying, hey, you can't do this, you need to tell those thoughts, hey, I can do whatever I want. I'm a Sagittarian and I own my life. It's time for you guys to own it. So you guys have a great week with that. Capricorn, Pluto's T-square with Mercury this week puts you in the middle, as it feels as if you have to make choices between your career and your family this week. And that is definitely a difficulty when you like things to run smoothly in the true Capricorn fashion, which of course in real life never really happens. We get little bits of running smoothly, and then for the most part we have to deal with all of the boombas that come in every once in a while. This is a difficult aspect, especially as Mercury turns retrograde this week, and miscommunications could be just all over the place, and some old patterns might start resurfacing either within yourself or with people around you. So this can be a very difficult time this week, especially with Mercury being in retrograde, Pluto's in retrograde, and Uranus is in retrograde. It's a T-square of retrogrades. And for cardinal signs that want to move forward, it is going to make it seem like you're not moving forward at all. Everything is piling up to make this wall that's going to get in your way. Now, at the same time, though, Pluto's aspects with Neptune and Jupiter this week, one, reminds you that you have a tendency to be a little over analytical, what Earth sign isn't. And two, remind you of how much that over analyzing things has gotten in your way of expanding on your goals in the past. So big lesson here is stay out of here. These things, these little things as they come at you, you can handle them as they come, knock them out, and be done with it. The more you think about it and the more you let these things pile up, or the more you think about all these things piling up, even if you're doing them, the more you're standing in your own way of being able to be successful. And you don't want to do that. Be clear on your communication and be clear listening when it comes to other people communicating you, so you can avoid that whole feeling of just needing to blow because it's all getting so frustrating. You don't have to do that. You can avoid it by simply listening and making sure taking care of it and knocking it out right away. And then therefore all of these little boom bahs don't pile up for you. So you guys avoid that feeling like this is all happening all over again. It's not. It's the lesson. It's coming at you. It's doing this. It's telling you to handle it in a different way. Handle it in a different way. Be the boss. And you guys have a great week with that. Aquarius, let's spend some time focusing on the big thinkers of the zodiac, because that's what Aquarians are. After all, the Aquarius verse is I know. And so because of this, we know, because of all of this stuff that's going on in our brain all the time. It's constant thinking, constant learning, constant use of this brain, which is a fantastic tool if we know how to use it and don't allow it to use us in the process. The typical Aquarian thinks a mile a minute, and there's so many different thoughts coming in there sometimes that it really gets in the way of us being able to be productive, because we need the time to do instead of think. But also at the same time, you may be missing out on some really fantastic clues from your guides, your angels, the universe, or your higher power because there's so much going on in your head. This week it's time to slow down that thinking process. Now, a lot of people tell me I can't. That's just the way that I think. Can't lives on Won't Street. You can do whatever you want because it's your brain and you own it. It does what you tell it to do. The problem is that up until now, you haven't been telling it to do anything. You've been allowing it to do what it normally does. This week, slow down that thinking process and really pay attention to those thoughts that plop into your head out of nowhere. Not your normal thinking process where you think from one thing to another, but something that just comes in out of nowhere and goes, and you go, where'd that come from? That's a message or from your guide or a clue as to where you need to go next. And our guides and angels can communicate with us in this way, but we need to have some clear mind time in order to really listen. So this week, spend some time working with that brain, getting some control over it, using it for your advantage instead of allowing it to run away and do whatever it's going to do. And you'll be surprised at just how much more functional that brain really can be. And it'll also be a little less exhausting for you guys. So you guys have a great week with that. And finally, Pisces. Neptune's opposition with Jupiter turns into a T-square with Saturn by the end of this week, proving if your thought process is negative, it's proving that things are always going to get in the way of you being able to expand when it comes to your goals and dreams and make any kind of headway there. Now, of course, Neptune being in the place where it's ruling the thoughts, you're talking about deep emotional thoughts. And as the Jupiter and Neptune T-square with Saturn, it's also proving to you the irresponsibility to yourself for having these negative thoughts now. Let's think about that for a minute, okay? You're being irresponsible to yourself by even having these negative thoughts. At the same time, Neptune's position with Pluto this week is showing you how many times you've been there in the past and is telling you or showing you those irresponsibilities to yourself in the past. You need to be in a place here and here where you know you deserve to get where you want. And being in that place puts you in a position to work towards those goals instead of spending so much time thinking about whether or not they're going to work out. You don't know if they're going to work out unless you go and do it. And that's really the bottom line there. So this week is all about your own internal process. How are your thoughts affecting what's going to happen now? You'll be surprised if by just letting that negative chatter go and doing what you need to do, you'll be surprised at how far you can go in a very, very, very small amount of time. And there's no T-square in the world that's going to hold you back from that if you do what you need to do. So you guys, go big and have a great week with that. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic. Of course, don't forget to check out the 13-card tarot for 2016. It's available, and it's out there, and people are getting it in droves. And we've also got some classes coming up in October, so you want to also be watchful for that. Check out our Facebook group, Grateful Fairy Wings Faithfuls. All the information is going to be in there, and then, of course, our websites. You guys have a great week, and I will see you next week when the sun is in Libra.